Welcome to Not a Great Whisperer podcast. This is your host, Katie Ray. I am joined by, not cousin by blood, but cousin by love, Brittany Safi. Thank you for joining. And Paul, her spouse, might join later. But I have the beautiful Brittany. Her hair is amazing. She's amazing. Everything about her is great. Thank you for joining today. This is fun. She's coming all the way from Massachusetts. I did country for Massachusetts. I don't know why, but I did it.
We're not country.
You are not country.
We're super preppy and white up here as well.
You say weird shit up there, but it's not country. But I love that Zoom makes this possible so you can be on the podcast. Thanks for joining today.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
I know. It's super fun. So we are going to talk about, of course, the Miss Hazel Rose. But I do want to just kind of talk about that. This might be a trigger for some people. You had lost Hazel. And is it at birth, do I say? Or do I say stillbirth? Or how do I?
Yeah. So the technical term would be she was stillborn. At 34 weeks of gestation. So,
so yeah, this might be a trigger for some people. So just to bring awareness to that, but it will be a conversational piece about her story and about the project that she is leading in Hazel Rose's name and her family and her beautiful little angel. So talking about Miss Hazel Rose, let's talk about just the beginning of it, being pregnant, that whole experience.
Yeah. So she was our first baby, and we got pregnant like fairly easily, and just sort of did all the pregnancy stuff and, made her nursery and announced our pregnancy announcement on like a fun social media post, and picked a name and had like 3 baby showers, one in Buffalo, actually, one here, one at my mom's house. So we were it was like the whole first baby thing where you just go over the top and, you've no idea what to expect. But we were stoked. And we, had the 2 ultrasounds in the beginning, like the first one where you see the heartbeat and then the anatomy scan. And then as you don't really have an ultrasound unless you're over the age of 35 or there's something
high risk
wrong.
Or something.
They're monitoring. Yeah, exactly. So,
which is crazy to think because I was high risk on this last one, and the amount of times I saw her was like very comforting in a way where you just let it ride the first, like that break. And you're just like, what's going on with the human in there? Like,
right. But you're not actually like, at least I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, well,
exactly.
This is how it goes. Okay. I guess this is how it goes. And we just don't see her again till she's born. And I just assumed that was normal, which it actually still is normal. Unless something crazy happens like it did to us. And then ever since we had 2 children following, we got to see them like every other week. And it drives me crazy. And I've said this in the past that this is how the system works, that unless you lose a child or there's something crazy that they pick up in the very beginning, you're not being monitored at all. And the way that we lost Hazel, it was explained to me as like a car crash. Like you're driving down, 95 and then somebody jumps the barrier and crashes into your car and it's like lights out. It just happens in the flick of a switch. And so if that could happen at any time and there could potentially be signs that is coming down the road, why are we
not checking?
Why are we not monitoring? And I know it comes down to insurance companies and money and all of that, but
in your mind, you've lived it. It's that lived experience of.
I lived it. And I think to myself, I'm so grateful that I got to see Hudson and Charlie as often as I did on ultrasounds, but why did I have to go through
that?
What I went through to get that? That should just be a right to all moms from day one in my in my opinion.
And what room are you in? Because I see Hazel Rose's name behind you.
Oh, yeah. So this is, so we're kind of jumping all over the place, but when we had her nursery done,
That's okay.
my girlfriend Allie painted this for her to hang in the nursery. So this was on the wall. Oh. And when we came home from the hospital, we didn't go into her nursery for almost a year, like kept the door shut, didn't touch a thing, just left it how it was. And obviously when Hudson was coming and I like needed somewhere to put him, my mom came up and we opened that door and just started like slowly taking things out of the room to then repaint it and sort of make it into Hudson's. But there were certain things that I didn't want to just put in a box and hide in the attic. And that was,
that's beautiful.
That was one of them. So now it's in our room and it just reminds me of her. But
so we will kind of jump to like little pieces because I'm coming from the understanding aspect where your story, full story is on, what's the podcast name one more time?
The Manifesting Misfits.
Yes. That is you in the raw, sharing your story. Super powerful. I recommend people listening to that if you can. It just opened my eyes to a lot, from the nurses to you and Polly, and you going to the grocery store for the first time with your mom and just like needing your mom and just like it just opened my eyes to a lot. It gives me chills talking about it. But I think that in itself was probably a little bit of healing for you. You're never going to heal. You're always going to grieve. It's your daughter. Yeah. But I do feel like the power in your voice, and if you did get to listen to it after for yourself, it was just eye-opening. And I think it's great that you do that for a lot of parents who are just stuck in that, where do I go from here?
Yeah, because there's this crazy stigma attached to miscarriages and stillborns. And even like if you lose a baby at a very, they're born and then they die very early, it's like this thing that people just don't talk about. And I can't imagine going through this and not talking about her. It's definitely like saved me being able to talk to her. I wrote her letters. I remember when like days after we got back from the hospital, I started a blog and like bought her a domain because I was like, Blogspot, no, you get your own website, girlfriend.
Yeah,
and
you do.
I like pay GoDaddy, $10 a year to like keep the domain because I wanted it to be hers. And then when I finally got brave enough to just put it out there, I remember it was like, I think it was New Year's Day. And I felt, how you just sort of feel like this burden has been like, whatever you went throughout the year. I always feel on New Year's Day, like a sense of relief that like, okay, a fresh start. Let's like, let that go and looking forward to the future. And I had been sitting on this. I hadn't told anyone besides my immediate friends and family. And I said, this is, I think, the appropriate time to just sort of put it out there, because the last thing a lot of people had seen about this on social media, at least, was us, posting pictures from baby showers and like getting excited. And then in October, we went silent and nothing. Like I was way far away from social media. I couldn't even open it. I was spiraling to like see someone's baby or to see someone that I knew was pregnant and then that they actually had a baby. It was like, not only did it make me very sad, but it was like bewildering to me. I couldn't believe that. So they were pregnant and then they had a baby, like a live baby. Cause it's so hard to explain, but when your first experience with pregnancy is giving birth to a baby that's not alive, that's your experience. That is pregnancy to you. So I don't know if it would have been easier or harder if this was my second or third, if this had happened at a different time, but because it was my first, it was it kind of like set the scene for what pregnancy is to me, because your reality is your reality. Right. And like, so that that was my reality. And I had a really hard time understanding and watching people go through pregnancy with not a care in the world and having these healthy babies.
Yeah. And you also recovered as a woman who goes into labor. So you also had to do the recovery. So not only are you grieving your child, your also body is totally.
But I'm still wearing like gauze diapers.
Yes.
And I remember my milk came in and I was like, well, what the fuck do I do with this?
Yeah, exactly.
And talk about like a trigger is your milk coming in, and I'm like in the shower and it's like pouring out. And so we had like, I wore double sports bras. My mom like ace bandaged, and I put ice packs over my boobs for a week straight to like make it go away, because it was just another constant reminder that my body was ready for a baby and I didn't have one. You know, we drove home from the hospital without a baby in our car. We were in a postpartum room without a baby, which is just so unnatural, so crazy, but it was just our reality. And so that is what I always equated to childbirth, was that. And so when we attempted to have another baby, I was scared to death. I would have these dreams. I don't think I've ever really told anybody this, but I would wake up in like a deep sweat throughout my pregnancy with Hudson when I was pregnant with him. And it was the same reoccurring dream of I was laying in bed, I was being induced, and a nurse would come over and say, Brittany, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but actually the baby's not alive, but you still have to deliver him. And I just remember myself just looking over at the nurse and being like, okay, that's okay. I've done this before. It's okay. I know how to do this. And I was so like strangely calm, like creepily calm in my dream of like, okay, no problem, because I know how to do this. I can handle this. I've done it before. I wasn't really expecting this baby to be alive, to be honest, you know, in my dreams and a little bit in reality. I was convinced that Hudson was not going to come to fruition, you know. So there was so much anxiety wrapped up in that second pregnancy, and so much of convincing of myself that this was going to end in a baby, that we didn't tell anybody we were pregnant. The only people that knew we were pregnant. Well, remember, we were at your house.
I know. I was just going to say for Easter. And when I did find out, my heart was like, I can't imagine the anxiety. Like it literally hit me like, and so your dreams were your PTSD. Like that was your reoccurring trauma, just coming back up. But like in my head, I was like, I don't know how she's feeling, but I can't imagine my anxiety to like the 100th level. Yeah. Because just in general, being pregnant, it's hard.
High anxiety in general.
And totally different experience through IVF, but you're still injecting, you're implanted, and you're sitting there waiting to wonder if it took, like there's just these other little anxiety things of just pregnancy in general. But I don't know how, even if you can explain holding Hudson the first time and how thankful you are you have pictures of Hazel.
It was insane. It was the most out of body experience for it to end. Hudson, to be honest, was not easy either. I was induced at 37 weeks because, medically at 37, once you hit that 37 mark, your baby's no longer considered premature. So, but the doctors also wanted to get the baby out of me as soon as possible. So we were waiting for like that exact date, so that we were like past the premature level. So hopefully you didn't have to go to the NICU,
the lungs and all that.
But it was but it was still safe. And obviously the longer the baby, so you're told, the longer the baby can stay inside of you, the better. But not in my case, not in my experience. Actually, the longer the baby was in me, the higher the risk, in my opinion, of it potentially something crazy happening, like what happened to Hazel, where the cord pinched. I mean, that was such a freak thing that if I could lessen the amount of time that could potentially happen, then I was all for it.
You wanted the healthy point to get him out, is what
exactly. So at 37 weeks, I was induced, and you're still, I was induced with Hazel at 34 weeks. So I was pretty familiar with the procedure with the Pitocin and all the things that they do to sort of like get your body going. And I thought, well, this will be easy because my body was at 34 weeks, definitely not ready to give birth. 37, it should happen a little faster. And it didn't at all. And I got to 8.5 centimeters. My water was broke. I was having major contractions. I had the epidural and I just stopped and I couldn't get past 8.5 centimeters. So at like 36 hours after I had been induced, the doctor was like, listen, your water's been broke for over 24 hours now. The baby's not protected anymore. It's, susceptible now to like disease or infection, not disease. We want to do a C-section. And I was like, no way, no. Like why women hate C-section. Or,
I don't know either. Yeah, it's because your mindset, or you hear a horror story and you're like, no, I'm ready. I'm here.
Right.
I'm ready.
No, I can do this. Yeah. I was so set. I'm like doing it because I had delivered Hazel vaginally. Mm-hmm. So at least that was like one thing I knew how this works. And I felt was in my control. I'm like, no, I've done this before. I can do this again with Hudson. And he's like, I think this is a now 9-pound baby. You're not going to walk straight after this. And I was like, oh, okay. You're just like,
whatever. Steer Let's throw the fear in. We're going to throw the fear in.
So I ended up having an emergency C-section, which is fucking nuts. Like, have you?
No, I haven't.
All your babies vaginal?
Yeah. Yeah.
So an emergency C-section, the second you say, okay, and give your like.
The baby's out, basically.
Your thumbs up to it. I was like numb from the neck down because I already had the epidural. So they just pump the drugs through the epidural. Yeah. I'm like, numb from the neck down. I can't move. I'm like naked in an operating room. About to be cut open. And I had no idea I was puking all over the table.
From the epidural medicine just kicked your ass.
Yeah, it was bad. And then they took him out. I have a video, like we videoed through the, they pull down like one sheet and then there's a clear sheet so you can see him. And I just burst into tears and I couldn't believe that there was a baby like crying, but I also like didn't know where I was. And then they handed him to me and I looked at Paul and I was like, I'm about to black out. I need you to take the baby. And I did blacked out.
I also think from just everything, right? You're in anxiety mode. You're pumped full of drugs. Like you're pumped full of drugs.
So many drugs.
Another something that is out of your control, like just everything. And you're like, I'm about to black out. This is not gonna take the baby. Yeah. Take the baby, Paul.
Just take the baby. Please. And then he's like, and then you like totally black. I wish he was here, but like, and then you just like blacked out.
So that's another thing. Like as your spouse in the room, like his anxiety on top of yours, but trying to help you through it because you're going through the physical aspect. And it's like just all that. And you guys navigating that after Hazel had to been like kind of like just walking around the house like zombies for a little bit, like what just happened, right?
Sure. I mean, when we first got home from the hospital, we grieved in very, very different ways. And I couldn't even get out of bed to take a shower. I was so deep, darkly depressed. And Paul was equally depressed, but he's not one to really like
sit in his emotions and say it. Yeah.
Yeah. He always feels like he needs to be the one the rock, the one that lifts you up. Yeah. So
that could be a Sophie trait. That could be a Sophie trait. Because I always feel like, no, I got to bring it up. I got to make sure everyone's okay. Like, it could be.
But you could tell, he would walk around the house and just like start cleaning things, like taking the fridge apart and he would take all the seat cushions off of our outdoor furniture and was like washing them and doing yard work and doing all these things. And, his mom was there. So both of our moms came and my mom was laying in bed with me, like eating pumpkin bread and watching daytime television and
brain shut off. You need to shut your brain off.
Yeah. We were just shutting everything off. Like we did not leave my room. We went from the bed to this big chair I've had, and I would like adult coloring books for therapy. I was told I was writing that blog, writing letters to Hazel every day, things like that, where Paul was needed to like just turn his brain off and physically do something. Yeah. And I remember his mom being like, I just feel like I'm here. I want to be here for him, because she sees like me spooning my mom in bed, like popping Xanaxes.
Which is super important and needed.
Yes. But, Paul grieved very differently. So while she felt like she wasn't there for him, she 100% was there for him by like standing by his side while they like cleaned cushions on outside. That's what Paul needed.
Different support.
And I needed something different. Right. And so just because we were grieving differently didn't mean she wasn't there for him. She 100% was, just in a different way. And
but maybe as a woman, she thought was grieving, hugging, but at the same time for Paulie, he's like, can you help me grab this shelf real quick? We need to scrub this shelf. Like that helped him. Right. But also I don't think
like that was another thing that he did for therapy was cooking. Like, I'm going to cook, he loves to do that. So he focused on stuff like that.
The doing. I
wanted to just be
in it, the feelings. I think also it's not validating Paul's grieving, because 100% you both are parents. This is what you're going through, but you're also going through the physical recovery of giving birth. And every time you get up to use the restroom, every time you put on a pair of clothes, it's a constant reminder where Paulie can go build something real quick and try to not think about it, not saying his feeling, not validating him, but it's just like people need to realize like that is a constant. You're in your sweatpants, not only because you're pregnant and just gave birth, because you have to recover and you can't fit into other things. Like you can't just jump right back into you.
Now your body's, God, I remember going back to, I used to do bar, that workout. And I remember finding a bar studio up because we had just sort of like moved to this area in Massachusetts, and I found a bar studio. And my mom was here at the time, and it was in late November. So it was probably like a month after. And she was like, why don't you just go like take a bar class, see what that's like. Maybe it'll help. So I remember like forcing myself to do this, and I put on workout clothes, and I remember standing in this bar studio and looking at my body in the mirror.
I was going to say there's mirrors everywhere in that shit.
And you're like, oh my God, my stomach is droopier, my boobs are droopier, and it's like a postpartum body, but I didn't have a baby to like be like, oh, well, I did it for you. Like you look at your kids now and like, it was worth it. Like it was, you were amazing and beautiful, and I sacrificed for you. Yes. But it was worth it. And it's just my body, but I didn't even have that, and then it like people started coming into the class, and I was already like really anxious outside of my room, like even anywhere where there was people that didn't know what I had gone through. I just wanted to be like, can I just tell you what just happened to me? Like, please don't say anything mean to me or like rude or anything. But you can't just like say that to strangers. I would wear a sign that said like, my daughter just died. Please be nice to me. But you can't. And that's like a huge, I'll touch on that, but like, that's a big thing I took away from is you have no idea what people are going through. Like the girl next to you in bar class, you don't know if her daughter just died a month ago. Like, you don't know.
She's just trying to cope.
Be nice to people. Just be fucking nice.
Yeah, you said that about the grocery store, and that hit me. It's like you have no idea that person you were just like hit and didn't say sorry to or didn't want, like, just fucking stop being so rude to people. Like, that's it. Like, no idea. Oh, did Paul join us? I saw you look up. Right.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. He's just late. It's fine. It's fine.
Just to finish on the bar class.
There he is. Yes, please.
So at the end of the bar class, the teacher, so her daughter, she had like a 2-year-old daughter who was being watched in a room somewhere by someone, because I guess she didn't have child coverage. So at the end, whoever was watching her, like, she was like 1 actually, let this little 1-year-old kind of like toddle in. And everyone's like, oh my God, your daughter is so cute. And she's like doing push-ups with her. And we're like cooling down, and her daughter is in the front of the room. And I have never felt so panicky and so like angry. And I just walked out of the class and got in my car and bawled my eyes out. When in a normal situation, I would have been like, oh, that little girl's so cute. Oh, I'm so just normal reactions. And I like hated this instructor. I hated her. Yeah. I was like, how could you do this? Like, I just let myself out into the world for the first time. And this is my fucking experience. I have to look at your daughter. I want a daughter. It was really bad. And I drove home and like pulled into the driveway. And my mom's like, how'd it go? And I was like, it was fucking terrible, Mom. And I like went over.
Oh my gosh. Her heart was probably because she wanted you to go. She wanted you to just like, and you were just like, fuck no. But at the same time, you were still in that like beginning state. Like it wasn't like now you look back and like, that was not personal to her. It was where I was like, that wasn't. Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing. Like you just, it's totally irrational, but you just hate everybody around you that has kids or is pregnant. Because you just assume like, well, their life is going to be perfect and their pregnancy is going to be perfect. And all these people just have perfect babies and don't have to worry about anything. And I hate them for it. And I was hating like strangers. I was hating people I loved. Like maybe hate is the wrong word, but I definitely couldn't.
I get it. No, I get it.
Look at them. It made me resentful is the right word. I was resentful to some of my best friends. I was resentful towards my sister, who is like the person I'm the most close to in the entire world, who had a daughter 2 weeks before me. And we were supposed to have like girl cousins. And I was resentful and jealous, like deeply, deeply jealous.
But it's good that you had that feeling. You owned that feeling, because a lot of people, more anger comes out. But you know what? Yeah. You were experiencing something some other people weren't. And I think it's good that you can reflect on it and understand where other people are coming from now. In that. Paul, welcome. Join us. Welcome. We were talking about Hazel Rose and Brittany getting out of the house for the first time. It was miserable. Even though you did go to
talking about how differently we grieved. And I was thinking about that story. If you want to tell Katie about, so when Hazel was cremated, we had to have this whole discussion. Well, we're like, I don't even think she was born yet. And people were asking us like what we wanted to do after she was born. Like, do we want to cremate her? Do we want her body to like, do we want to bury her? And
so we're like, before delivery?
Oh yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. And I'm like, she's still in my body.
Was that the experience with the first social worker?
No,
we had a couple of very strange experiences.
Oh, and you think about it now, like for people, like if you're just not a people person, why you're in this position.
Like not a thing to maybe ask a mom who's about to deliver a baby that's not alive. It hasn't even gone through the delivery. And I'm not even processing what's happening yet, let alone like processing the steps afterwards, So they were asking us if we wanted to cremate, and we decided, I was probably blackout, but we did want to cremate her. We didn't know what we were going to do with her ashes, but we wanted her cremated. And because we wanted her, I remember we wanted her like with us, we didn't want to bury her somewhere. We wanted her. And she's still like to this day sitting on our dresser, because we just feel like this is the right spot for her.
Glad you made that
maybe
decision.
Maybe she would leave.
Because you might not have made it. It was so quick. Like what an emotional time to ask you.
Totally. Just talking about it out loud, it's just like the craziest thing.
Well, we had to think through like all these steps. We're like, well, should we bury it should we plant a rose bush and bury her under there? Should we have a,
but then what if we move? Like, will she come with us? Should we sprinkle her ashes? And we're like trying to come up with what we wanted to do. And so for a while we were like, we'll just put her on our dresser until we know what we want to do. And to this day, that's where she is, because that's just where we want her. Like we give, I give her smooches and like say hi every day. And it's just feels comforting to have her here. But what the story I was going to have Paul tell is they called us and were like, oh, you can come pick her up now, like her ashes. And the crematorium was in Boston and we live like 40 minutes up. So my mom and Bernadette were here and they're like, we'll go do that for you. And I remember Paul being like, no, it's something I would really like to do. And I was like, never in a million years could I drive to Boston and pick up Hazel's ashes and drive them back. But Paul was like very insistent upon it.
It was a strange experience.
But
I don't know why I was so insistent.
Well, I think because you're in protective mode, right?
Yeah.
So I think definitely. In protective mode. But was it just you in the car, or did you bring both the moms?
Yeah, he went alone and then tell her what you did. You drove around the city.
Did you sing to Hazel? Did you sing to Hazel?
In the hospital, he did. He held her, and you sang her "Fly Me to the Moon."
I did, yeah.
Oh.
I have a picture of it. Oh. But on the way home, I'm
going to cry about this stupid thing I'm about to say. It's so stupid.
Say it. Please say it.
Well, the reason she's saying that, asking me to tell a story, is because she knows I'm going to be emotional about it. But so I went down there, and it was strange. I was very matter of fact with this guy, and he's, he comes out. He's very, very funeral home director. Mm-hmm. They have to be that way. I give them a lot of credit. I certainly couldn't do that day to day. But anyway, and he just brings out like this bag. It's like a gift bag.
Yeah, it's
legitimately like a gift bag. I'm like, what? Where am I? What am I doing right now?
That's my daughter.
I can't process this moment right now. But anyway, so get in the car and I did. I don't know if this is a morbid analogy or
whatever you need.
But do you remember the scene in Castaway where he realizes that his handprint looks like a face on Wilson, mm-hmm. and he just looking back and forth at him, like expecting him to say something? Mm-hmm. I kept doing that. I was like, and it was silent in my car for a while. I was like, this is weird. But anyway, I had this stupid like thing in my head, and I did it with Hudson. Obviously, we haven't done it with Charlie because of the pandemic, but everyone, I was with Del Frisco's for so long, and you watch all these people bring their kids in. Oh, like, here's my new baby, blah, blah, blah. And I had this image in my head. And so I end up driving through the city and going past the restaurant and stuff. And it was just not the experience I wanted to have, that's for sure. But I got to do it. I didn't show it to anybody, but it was just, I don't know. It was really strange. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I put my foot down. I can't imagine my mother and Beverly going to do it. I know they said they would go do it, but I can't even picture them, walking in that place. Yeah. I was the right person for that for sure.
Well, I also think that moment with you and Hazel is something you'll always remember. I mean, I definitely just felt that when you said that, because it's just like that moment that you're missing, but you still want to make it. Like you're missing that moment, but you still want to have that moment. That's a lot.
Something I thought about for the entire pregnancy.
Yep.
And because it was number one too. It was the first kid. Mm-hmm. So it's like we hadn't experienced it yet, and I had this just a stupid image in my head of bringing her in the restaurant, saying, "Here we go."
Stupid.
Oh, it's not. I hate when you say stupid.
Sorry.
Brittany and I will stop you from saying stupid. I think it's beautiful, and I think it's powerful because, gosh, I'll tell you what, the decisions you guys had to make in like a split second of everything. Like just when you talked about like, what if you didn't have those pictures, right? How much you would be like, what? Those pictures.
When they came in, right? And it's in. You're laying in this bed, like totally numb to the world and what's going on. And they asked, like, would it be okay if we took pictures? Would it be okay? Do you want to see her? Do you want to meet her? Do you want us to take her out of the room? Like, how do you want this to go down, basically? And
can we swear on this?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we're explicit. We are explicit to a T.
I know you're the host, but I almost
told you. Polly, fuck yeah.
Paul did almost.
It almost came right out of my mouth. I've been thinking about it. I almost said, get the fuck out of here.
Get the fuck out of here. And they give you 100 options. Like in any form of any type of asking questions, like give me 2 fucking options. Stop giving me 95.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I didn't think I wanted to meet her. I don't think Paul did either. We were both like, this isn't natural. Like, what? It's a dead baby. Like, why would we want to meet her? We just want to pretend this didn't happen and go home now, please. And
we definitely said no.
We definitely said no, I think, but they still there was a nurse that I didn't notice, but somebody was snapping pictures.
Yeah.
And then when you are getting ready to leave, like when we were in our postpartum room, somebody walked in with this box and it's like beautiful. It's this like white padded box. And they had her in this little white dress when she was first born. Like that's what we held her in, but she was wrapped up in the blanket. So we didn't really see it. And like, this is kind of cool. The white dress that she has is made out of someone's old wedding dress. So women can donate their wedding dresses to hospitals and then they turn them into little gowns, like little dresses for stillborn babies to wear.
You can grab a baby if you need to. I think I hear Charlie.
Isn't she downstairs?
Is she downstairs?
I think Becky.
Oh my God, there's someone okay, got it.
There's someone else here helping us.
Oh, good. Okay, because I was like, you guys have totally grabbed the baby. But I also think so because we just talked about the wedding gowns that you can donate so that they can make little dresses. The blanket. I do want to talk about the Hazel Project a little bit, but we can always jump back because we can jump around. We're jumping around.
Yeah. We're jumping around.
Because I think you're going to have a Facebook landing page for it soon because I'm making you. And I just think it's so powerful because I think I saw Hudson's picture when he was first born with Hazel's blanket, and just having that because what are you supposed to plan for getting asked these questions on your firstborn? Do you know what I mean? Because you didn't plan for it, but you know it's so important right now and what you're thankful you answered yes to. Those pictures are powerful and so loving, with the one of both of you and just hate. It's just like, there's just so much behind that. And some people will be like, a picture, why would you take a picture? But it's just like, there's so much love in that picture and just like heartbreak, but it's like so much love.
Totally. And what I've come to learn is that you know, the second she was born, that whole thing about like, yes, just take her out of the room. We don't want to see her. We want to go home and pretend this never happened, like disappeared. And all we wanted to do was hold her and kiss her and like look at her face and see who she looked like. And, you know, I remember pushing, and my first question was like, does she have a lot of hair? Like as a natural, just like, I've been waiting for this moment. I'm wondering, does she have a lot of hair? Like, I want to know. And I said that like mid push, and thinking back, I'm like, what, why did I say that? But it was just one of those like natural things that I'm still a mom, still delivering a baby. And there's still all those things that you always wondered throughout the whole pregnancy that it was totally like out of nowhere and subconscious, but
Hazel still made you both parents. Like people can't take that away. You 100%.
Yeah. And that's something really important, I think, to recognize that when parents do lose a baby, you know, to stillborn, that they're still that baby's parents, and that baby had a name, and it's really important to call the baby by its name. And it's really important to recognize that was their first, second, third, whatever child that was a child in their lineage of children. And, you know, Paul and I are definitely more outspoken about it, but that doesn't mean that just because someone is more private about it, that takes away that their baby wasn't, you know, didn't have a name and they don't want to be recognized for it.
I think ending the stigma on that though is like, you thought, oh yeah, just take the baby. So I don't like, oh, we'll just forget about it. No, like you don't have to share with the world. I think it's powerful when you do, but like recognizing, letting her brother and sister know about her, like that's so much. Oh, it's just like you're just creating these humans that have empathy, like right off the bat, like just like,
I think it's different. I mean, to think about where we were in the knowledge on this subject or lack thereof before it happened to us. I don't think I ever said the phrase stillborn before it happened to us. And, you take a step back and think about something like that. I think it's pretty shocking. Like the stats are actually really high percentage wise, relatively speaking.
No, they are. They are.
On these types of events and moments. And so many people don't know that.
Mm-hmm. I think also coming from a man, talking about the feeling through it, and that is so powerful for the couples that are men or male and female, that they feel, oh, okay, like I can grieve this. I don't have to be like this strong, like you literally lost a child. Like, even if you are cleaning the whole house, because that's what Paul does when he grieves, but you're still feeling it, right? You're in it. You're just keeping busy. You can still be in like protective mode, but you're still owning that moment of just like sadness. Cause there's no other way to really describe it. Right. It's just sad.
It's really sad. And I think like one of our saving grace moments was when we, basically this is how we've become the people that these people were to us. But once it happened, people were reaching out from all over being like, hey, this didn't happen to me, but I have a friend that this happened to. Can I give you her number? She wants you to have her number. Or, hey, I have a friend that this happened to, and she runs a support group. Or, and there was all these different, it was really no one directly at the time, but there was a lot of people in our life that like knew somebody who maybe knew somebody that, and that person who was, 2 degrees away from us still wanted all of their information given to these strangers. And we've sort of become those people for strangers that we don't know, that, friends have reached out to us and been like, I don't know how to handle this. Could you just talk to them, or can I give them your number? And I'm 100% all the time. Yes, please. Because that's what saved us. And we took this random person up on this group that we went to, and we walked in there, like 3 weeks after she was born? It was in November.
It was that long.
It might not even been 3 weeks.
It was definitely before the holiday.
And we sat at this big table, and there were so many couples at the table that had gone through the exact same thing that we had gone through. And we were just shocked that like other people went through this, because in that moment, you feel like you're the only person in the world that this probably ever happened to, and no one will ever understand it, because in your immediate circle, nobody does typically. Mm-hmm. But there is a world of people that have gone through it and can relate to you. I remember listening to them. Everybody would like go around the table and tell their stories. And there was this one couple that I think she lost her baby at 40 weeks, and they drove home from the hospital, and the car seat was like already in the car, ready to go. And she might've gone in to deliver. And that's when they realized the baby didn't have a heartbeat.
Devastating.
And they came home, and she like this image she described of her husband ripping the car seat out of the car and throwing it across the lawn. And I think like some Amazon packages had just been delivered for, like gifts or their nursery or whatever, were sitting on the front porch, and just like threw them off the porch. And just like that anger and just inability to process what just happened. But when they were telling these stories, Paul and I were like, yes, yes.
I feel that. You were like, I feel that.
We have a nursery that we haven't even opened the freaking door to yet, and
I almost ripped the sink off the wall in the bathroom in the hospital.
I mean,
I was like,
you're like, is this covered under insurance? Because I'm about to rip this off. I think also something that you can bring to light is you two during this, right? Like you hear of separation, or just everybody turns away from each other. And it's just like, nobody can understand how to take on this trauma. So as a couple, they can't stay. Well, how hard was that for you two at first? Or was it like a no-brainer? We stick together. This is it.
I never thought of it.
Not separation. No, not like that. I just meant like, how hard was it to not like anger wise take it out on each other? Like, how did you guys make sure to assist? I didn't mean like separating. I just meant because you guys had to like take in the trauma, take in the grief, take in all that. You were doing it. You were doing the work, But was there ever a time where you were just like, this is too hard? Like, this is.
Yeah. But
there were lots of times where I was like, this sucks. I have to go do something.
Okay. That's how you were able to kind of keep your sanity to not take it out on your household.
Right. Yeah. And I would say I probably took it more out on Paul than he did on me. For sure.
We can handle it.
But it's kind of like grace, right? You're just giving each other grace to just like go through these
and
cycles.
I will say it like solidified our relationship. Yeah. Like you said, I think this could probably destroy a lot of relationships. And I'm not trying to say like my relationship is better than anyone.
No. Yeah, of course not. I'm just saying I
think you're right. Like it could have gone two ways. It's either going to like make you, the closest and strongest relationship, there can be, or it can destroy you because you're so lost and you just don't know how to communicate with each other or get past it. Or, I had to pull, not to take away from Paul, but I definitely think I was in a darker place for a lot of it. And I had to pull myself out of that. And I could imagine if someone wasn't able to pull themselves out of it, it was probably really hard for Paul to just be married to a shell of a person for a while. And I can imagine if I didn't work on my mental health and, work on.
They're so important. Really? Just mental health and understanding. Right. Go to support groups, go to therapy, go together, go separately.
Yeah. Take some drugs if you need to, do whatever you need to do to get out of that place. And I did, but I can imagine if someone couldn't pull themselves out of it, it could affect their spouse significantly, I can imagine. But yeah, I mean, we live to tell the tale, and, now we have 2 healthy babies, and it was a journey for sure. It sucked to get to where we are, but we still to this day, probably a couple of days ago, we're like, can you believe where we are and where we were 3 years ago? We had lost Hazel. Yeah. About 3 years ago, 3 years and 2 months ago, we had lost Hazel. Uh-oh. And within that time, we now have 2 more babies. And
super energized, Hudson. Super energized. And do you think, do you find that more kind of strangers reach out to you to just get that validation of feeling horrible?
Predominantly.
Yeah, it's predominantly strangers that reach out to us. It's friends
who know
who have someone in their life that is going through this and they don't know how to handle it. And I would say that's 100% how to handle it. It's connect them with somebody that does know what they're feeling and what they're going through, because as good as your intentions may be, you're probably going to say the wrong thing to them. You're probably not going to,
which we've always said is okay, because you're not going to know the right thing to say.
Yeah.
That's okay. We told so many people, at least I did, so many people that it's okay. I know you don't know what to say.
But there's definitely certain things I can tell you not to say, you can always have another, or
everything happens for a reason.
I hate that saying more than any
what
saying.
Was the reason?
Who also made that saying? Because I don't even what? No. Yeah, you might learn from every experience something, but it didn't what? I just don't, not to 2 parents that just lost a child. I don't even understand. That
or now that we have Hudson and Charlie, at least you have them. That doesn't.
You're taking away from Hazel's life. You're just taking away from.
We have 2 doesn't mean that, that
you cancel one out. Yeah.
Right. So.
It's really just knowing that parents are always going to grieve. There's things, of course, your everyday. I mean, you're probably exhausted because just thinking about Hudson's energy. But every day you think of Hazel, I'm just exhausted thinking of that kid's energy. I'm tired.
12 kids.
I have 3, but I have seen Hudson in action, and Jaden is that. But I can still close a door and he'll be safe. Like I can go into, like he is old enough where I don't know to be like, oh God, did he just jump off of a couch? Like did he jump off? Did he hurt himself? Don't you have like 12? I do. But I also, I'm inspired by you both. I think your relationship as just a whole, as parents, as a married couple, as is very inspiring, even on the hard days, right? Like, because nothing's perfect. You're like, nope. But Polly can sure still carry a tune. Am I right? Am I right?
I think it's that.
But one thing, what you just said is, I think really true is like, we're never going to forget about her. We think about her every day. And, there's been certain people in our life that are afraid to like bring it up, and they've said, because we don't want to make you upset. I don't want to ask about Hazel or ask about how you're feeling or tell you like something reminded me of her, because if you're in like a good, brain space that day, I don't want to like send you spiraling. And the matter of fact is that we think about her every single day. And we didn't forget that we lost a daughter. Like, you're not going to jog my memory and be like, oh yeah.
Hazel, wasn't even thinking of her today. Thanks.
That will never happen.
Hazel? Who?
What brings us the most joy is when people tell us like, hey, I saw, we equate sunsets with her because it was fall and there were like these like brilliant October sunsets happening every night that we would go to sleep to. And so that just sort of stuck. So there's certain people that I'm very close to in my life that'll be like, hey, I saw, the sunset today and it made me think of her, and like might send me a picture, or, this, I met, I saw a cardinal, or something might just pop into their heads. But we want to hear those things that justifies like everything we went through. And it makes us, and it solidifies that she was real. Mm-hmm. She's a real baby. She existed. She was our baby. And we're talking about her as if she was real. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest fear, is that she'll be forgotten. So
yeah. So saying like, I didn't want to bring her up or something like that. It's like you're in, like maybe you're trying, but like, think about it again. It's like push away your feelings so you don't validate them. And it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense, because it's like, I don't want to bring up Hazel if you're not thinking about her today. Your parents, that's right. Your first. Right. There's zero chance you don't think about her with the smallest things, like the smallest thing. And you see kids everywhere. Everywhere. So when there's like a little, it was 3 years ago. So you see a 3 or a 4-year-old.
Oh yeah. I think about that all the time.
Our niece Hayden.
Yeah. Hayden. So my sister's.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 2 weeks.
When we see Hayden and immediately think about Hazel. Yeah. And I know that made my sister feel really guilty for a long time, and she probably still holds some guilt, but that's just the reality of it. That's more like our burden to bear. She can't feel guilty about having a healthy daughter, even though I know she did and still does to an extent. But every time I see Hayden make like a leap, or, start walking or start talking or whatever she's doing, and I know Paul does too, we immediately think like,
of course,
we're supposed to have like a little 3-year-old girl right now running around. Or now that we have Charlie, nothing like, of course, Hudson was a baby, but there was something about having another girl that just made it even more surreal. And Charlie and Hazel look very similar. They did when they were newborns. And so that was something that was kind of, I don't know.
I think having a boy was a godsend in terms of.
You mean right after? I thought I was like, okay, boast about yourself right now, Polly. Okay. Like, no, you mean like right. Oh yeah. Cause another girl. Yeah. No, I get that.
Separate, because when you have a baby and your body like goes through childbirth, but then you don't, my therapist actually explained this to me. But you don't leave the hospital with the baby. There's part of your body that still thinks you're pregnant. And then we got pregnant like 4 months right after. So I just sort of like picked up where I left off. So it was almost like mentally, my mental like defense mechanism kicked in and was like, no, you've just been pregnant this entire time. Like you're still gonna have a baby. You've never had a baby. And never left the hospital with a baby. So we could sort of trick ourselves into believing that when we needed to. And if it had been a girl, I think we both would have had a really hard time, like separating her from Hazel.
Yes. Okay. I get that.
Baby, which would not have been healthy at all for us.
No. Yeah, no. But no, I understand with the whole like feeling like, because you got pregnant so fast right after, that it was just like your body. So the whole experience would just extend. And if it was Charlie instead of Hudson first, and it would have just been a different, mental, again, another mental state you would have had to get through.
It would have been. And, this is another thing that made it like really difficult with Hudson and would have been crazy if he was a girl, is his pregnancy was exactly on the same line as Hazel's. So every trimester started and ended at the same time that Hazel's did. He was born 7 days after Hazel was born, a year later.
Yeah.
So they all lined up like so perfectly that it was exactly like reliving Hazel's pregnancy, because, the seasons were changing exactly how they changed when I was pregnant with Hazel. So I was just reliving. We were just reliving. I remember
going in starting week 28, 29 and just being like, oh God. And I could see it in Brittany's face. It's like, it was like we were
anxiety and everything,
and still not I didn't believe I was going to meet, a baby. It was so, until we had him,
oh gosh,
and even for a long period after that, I'm like, this is fake. This isn't real. Do we have a baby? Is this real?
Oh.
How it ended this time, So that was, that was tough to get through that year, even for me, obviously, especially for Brittany.
Yeah. The year of pregnancy and delivering.
Yeah. It was basically 2 years of pregnancy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you talked about it earlier before I came in, but to go through an experience, whether it's as late as Hazel was or early on or whatever, it ruins the experience of pregnancy.
Yeah.
And that whole thing, right? I mean,
meaning if it's your first, because that's your only experience. So we didn't.
So that's all you feel is that experience.
Right. And even after Hudson, with Charlie, you'd think like, oh, well, they had a baby that was alive, so it would change it. But no, you go immediately right back to,
of course,
people tell you percentages and you're like, yeah, well, I was that small percentage. So you can take your percentages and shove it, because I believe.
And you can hand me back my Xanax. Thank you so much. I would appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. Okay. So we'll wrap on, because I think we should do another episode, and Polly can do like a sweet little sing along to that one. But for this one is maybe something you want to tell people who went through it, and then a little bit to the support system around them, like things to know. Oh, and I'm sorry, go to the Hazel Project. Tell me about the Hazel Project.
Okay. So do you want to talk about it?
I mean, it's your creation.
I know. I just feel like talking so much.
Your creation.
I'm providing color commentary.
Thank you so much for that, Paul.
So when Hazel was born, as I mentioned, she was in that little white gown, and then she was wrapped up in this little purple blanket. And when we went home with that box, it had, her dress, her footprints, her handprints, a little tape measure of how long she was, and all of her, and then a little SD card with all those pictures on it. And then this purple blanket, which was the blanket she was wrapped up in. And it became my very most cherished possession. It was something I slept with every single night. And I remember washing it for the first time and getting super upset because it, this might sound gross to anyone else, but it had little specks of her DNA on it. And I felt like I was finally rid of all of her DNA. And that made me really sad, but I still sleep with it to this day. And after talking to other families that have gone through it, the blanket is an actual thing that lots of parents get. And it's really all you have left when you leave the hospital is this blanket. And I just thought how much comfort this blanket has brought me and like gotten me through things. And I literally like clutched it every night in the very beginning, and cried into it. And, you know, our dog slept with it. It was just like there all the time because we felt like that it embodied her. And when her first birthday was coming up, October 11th, we decided we needed to do something besides just like sulk in our house. So a couple months prior, it was very last minute that we just sort of came up with this, but started asking like close friends and family that we knew knitted or crocheted to just start sending us blankets. And then we were going to go to Brigham and Women's where she was born and donate them on the labor and delivery floor in her name to be used for other stillborn babies to come to hopefully bring comfort to the future parents of these babies. And the first year we did it, we had like 60 blankets, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
And
which was a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah.
Time.
Wow.
And we did it, and it just made us feel good about that day, a way to celebrate her that wasn't super sad. So it really was born out of a selfish need to like not cry in our beds all day. But it turned into something bigger than that. So we grew it the next year to like 120. We like doubled it. People, because word was kind of spreading. And I still to this day, I'm working on a website, but it's like people are sending them to my house. I don't even have a P.O. box. So I'm just like, here's my home address. Send them on.
I love it though.
It really was like this makeshift thing that we've grown. And, you know, sadly, when we went back to Brigham to donate the 120 blankets, they were like, oh my God, thank you so much. We've used all the blankets you gave us. And so it's very sad. And it kind of like hit me like a brick wall of like, yeah, I know what I'm like intending to do, but the reality is so sobering that
I couldn't believe it when they said that.
Either could I.
Clearly we still can't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've doubled, you know, the donations the last 2 years.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we named it the Hazel Project, and we've made it a little more legit. And a friend of mine made us a logo. And so we're working on, you know, making it a more of a legit website. But for now, we collect them all throughout the year. And then every October 11th, we donate them.
I love that. I think it's, you know, something created out of sadness, but it's just brings that comfort that you felt to other parents that need it the hardest time. I love that you do that. It's super sad that all the blankets are used. That like hits you when you deliver them and they're like, oh, we used them all. You're like, okay. Like you don't want to be a part of that group, but it's good that you have people like you that are a part of it that can help. So, okay. I know one of the things I learned from this episode is just be kind because you have no idea what someone's gone through. Boom. Also, you two are pretty cool people. Also my relatives. So it's even cooler. Boom. And both your hair look great today. I just want to throw that out there. You guys look great.
You're
super cute. Super cute, Brittany. I took a picture of you guys earlier, by the way. And I would like you to share with people going through what you go through every day. Maybe like a little inspo. And then maybe something for people not to do to people that have gone through this. Like a couple of your things like, oh, you'll have another one. It'll replace that. Your child. But like maybe a little bit from both of you, some of your both experiences, like to-dos, what not to do, and a little bit of inspo. Boom.
It's super important to listen, period. Whether it's to yourself or your spouse or people around you, you have to be listening. Because if you don't, it's going to be really tough to get through. I had to listen to what she was going through, even if she was saying nothing. You know what I mean? Like that's how important it is. Even if she wasn't speaking, I had to be listening to her. So I think that's huge as coming from a husband or spouse point of view. What not to do? Maybe we're unique in this, but don't tiptoe. Ask me a question. You know, don't be afraid. And I'm hoping this is the case for other people who go through it. I know everybody's different, but for me, I wanted people to ask me questions. I'm never afraid to answer anything. So, again, from my personal perspective, I think it's important, if you're curious, if you don't know,
ask.
It's ask. It's always better to ask in any situation.
So much better.
Anything in life. You got a question, ask it.
Yeah.
Getting information from the source is always the best way to get it. So
don't be afraid of it.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. Instead of asking your family or your brother or this, it's like, go to you, like ask you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's a lot better to go to the source. Brittany?
I think what got me through it, and Paul as well, is just like lean as hard as you need to on people. And part of my personality is like, I'm a pleaser, and I just always want to do and say the right thing. And shut up, Paul. And
shut up, Paul.
I had to learn how to let that go and not care about, like, if I was going to offend someone, or if I was going to, ruin someone's day, or if I was kind of like, I felt like, with my mom, that I was just taking up all of her energy. And my sister, I couldn't talk to her daughter, but or her. And I was doing all of these things to protect myself. And I guess my message is, it's okay to do that. It's okay to protect yourself when you're going through something like this, because that's the only way to recover eventually. And my relationship is wonderful with my sister and my niece now. And I couldn't see it at the time getting there, but it was because I took the time to separate myself from them that I could finally get back to a healthy place with them. And so I guess that would be a message is, don't think twice about how this is going to affect somebody else, because when you're going through this, you need to take care of yourself and your spouse first, that whole put your oxygen mask on first before you can, help your kid in an airplane. Well, that goes to, I think, the same, something like this. Yeah.
And I think it's important because you knew that you were a pleaser. Shut up, Paul. A pleaser first. So your personality, where you were like, wait, this has to change. I have to start with me. Yeah. That's important.
Hard.
I love you both.
Love you too.
Thanks for being here, Paul. Thanks for making an entrance. Always making an entrance. Thanks for being here. Brittany, always beautiful, always amazing. We're going to have another Easter in Florida or something. Or we'll come there in my dad's RV. People are like, what the fuck is she talking about right now? But it's fine. We know it's all that really matters in this world. So Hazel Project, she's going to have a Facebook page soon. You can find Brittany and Paul at Not a Great Whisperer podcast page. I think we should have a second episode. I think there's so much more to chat about. And since Paulie made an entrance, he's going to want to be on another one. So it's going to have to happen. At The Real Cray, KatieRay.com. I'm coming to you from Ybor, BK Creative Studio. They're coming to you from Massachusetts. If you want to find them, you won't be able to in Tampa. But you will when they come to visit me. So Paul, Brittany, anything else for my billion listeners? 1,000,001?
Just thank you for giving us a platform. I think this is, like you said, something that we need to break the stigma about and we need to talk about. And hopefully, this reaches somebody that needs to hear it, even just one person. Mm-hmm. It's worth it. And I would encourage other families that feel comfortable enough to do so to talk about their losses, because it's important. Yes. And it's beautiful to just honor Hazel. So I love you guys. I love your family. I love that I heard screaming because that's usually the background for me. Thanks for joining. Love you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.